made by Silvia Beccari, that is a Philosopher, EU Climate Pact ambassador. She's currently working for CERCIS Centre for Research and Circular Economy, Innovation and SME, and Fondazione Aldini Valeriani, that is a well-known organization in our region for professional training, that is working very closely with companies to address the company needs and to organize training and support program for improving their knowledges on different fields. Some introduction about the SMERF project. The SMERF project is an Interreg project, so its main focus is to link different regions in Europe. In this project, we are 8 partners from 7 different countries. And the timeline of the project was from April 2023 to March 2026. So we are more or less in the last 6 months of the project. The main goal, the main purpose of the project was to find ways and perform activities to help small SME, small and medium enterprises, for a transition towards a SMERF. The acronym is SME Ready for the Future. So the main goal is to try to find different ways and different tools to help what is the backbone of European industry to improve, especially connecting the small and medium enterprises to higher education institute and intermediaries. These 2 entities are organizations like the one partnering the project that are working closely with the SME and that are performing services and activities to support them in their innovation path. These are the partners of the project. This training was organized by CRIT, but before and after there will be other trainings organized by the other partners. So as you can see, we are covering a lot of countries in Europe. All these organizations in different ways are supporting small and medium enterprises to perform activities concerning innovation. The 4 pillars of SMERF, in the beginning of the project, in the proposal, there were 4 pillars that were identified for SMERF. The first one is innovation culture. That is, let's say, the environment in which all the other pillars will grow. So to try to find a way to put innovation as a culture in the company, not just a function. Digital manufacturing, of course, because we think that for industrial company, the future can be connected with new technologies to improve and to face the challenges that are coming from different markets. Open innovation and sharing economy. This project for sure is trying to allow the SME to open to the outside world and not to remain closed in their field. And green and circular economy. Today's subject, let's say, that is very well known and probably is one of the features that is currently characterizing our region, Europe. And so we think it's important to invest and grow in this field that is specific for and very important for the future of our region, but of all the world, let's say. As I was saying, the project is not in the beginning, so we are more or less in the last 6 months. So in the meantime, we have already created all these materials are available for companies. So today is also a way to communicate what we have done in order to each one of you to share the achievement and the results with all the companies that can be interested. So there is a knowledge base that is grouping approximately 30 good practices that is available online. The team, the partners have developed a tool for an assessment, a very detailed and a diagnosis tool that we will see later on in 2 steps. That was already tested, but by more than 160 SME. Currently, we are for sure over 200. And we have already trained the mentors of this project. Mentors in the context of SMERF are at least 80 participants, but we have gone over 100 people that will be like supporting the tool and spreading it to a lot of more people than the one that just the people participating in the project can reach. So this is a way to increase the number of contacts and people and companies that can benefit from SMERF. Also, the next step we will do, the study visit that will be say one-to-one meeting in which SME will match with big corporation in order to share their needs and improvements and matching with the needs of the big companies. An individual support program that will be one-to-one consultation and supporting activities made mainly by the project partner to some pilot action, let's say, with some SME to support the transition. And this training, like the one of today, we have done several in the previous months. The next one will be in a few days on October 10th about digital manufacturing. So we have done a lot of activities to try to spread the project achievement and results to all the SME that can be interested. For some little bit more about the tool, the diagnosis tool is made in 2 steps. The first one is very quick and simple, and there is already an evaluation that is a qualitative one with a radar chart that is giving as an output an overview of how the company is, let's say, not performing, it's a bad word, but about the relation with the 4 pillars. Then there is a second step, more specific, that is deepening for each of the 4 pillars with 20 questions, more specific indication about the company situation concerning each one of the pillars. And at the end is providing a transformation scenario. This one is, let's say, a draft, an overview of which could be a path that the company can perform to improve some activities about the pillar. Just to summarize what the project is offering for SME, this individual support program that is a dedicated support to 3 SME for each project partner. So it's very specific but very deeply performed. So it's a one-to-one consultation also with external experts. And this program is just starting and will finish at the beginning of 2026. The study visit instead are the one I was telling before, where some SME will be in contact with big corporation to understand which could be the market needs and present their offer in order to fine-tune what could be a possible market for their improvement. The timing is a little bit different, but more or less the same. So it will end also in January 2006. Here are some references. So also this presentation is useful for you for reaching us and also the other project partner. For what concerned the project overview is done. So I leave the floor to Silvia to perform the today training.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear
Yes.
me. Yes, okay. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Silvia Beccari. First of all, I am a philosopher and also a European Climate Pact ambassador. because I choose as my role to try to make people understand this changement, because starting from the Green Deal, Europe has paved the way for a change, but it was not easy for people and companies to understand this change, especially because there are always new directives that are impacting market and business. And today my task is to explain how we can let people be more engaged in this changement, and how company can benefit of this new mindset that is green business. Green business is not a branch of business, is only a new vision. We must have a new vision, which is asked, because people are asking us this new vision because they want products that are more valuable and more healthier, and this means that we have to change our point of view. I will start showing my slide. Okay. Hope you can see it.
Yes.
Okay. I start with the why, because first of all, when we have a change, we have to ask us why we want to change and why we have to change. We have to change because a sustainable and healthy future is only possible by decomposing a globalized culture and supporting instead a culture of biodiversity in its place. Because since today we were taught that a globalized culture was the best, but we understood, and we unfortunately, it's a problem also of impact. We understood that a globalized market sometimes can be dangerous. How can we apply this new change? Sustainability starts with the concept of better quality of life, less waste, and higher profitability. I underline higher profitability because it's not only a question of better quality of life or also less waste, but also for the company's profitability. But how can this be applied to business? First, I call the wake-up call. That is, climate crisis is not a distant threat, as we have seen today, every day, with the natural events that are happening in Europe, in Italy, and all over the world. It is a business risk, not a distant threat. Customers, investors, and regulators are demanding change. It's not only customers, but all the market is demanding change. Green is no longer a nice to have. It's survival for companies, for people. For example, I made its example very clear because change is already happening. Dutch pension fund, PFZW, which is a news that appeared in Bloomberg, September 2025, revealed significant changes in its external investment manager lineup. That is, they decided, including pooling approximately 29 billion euros in mandates from BlackRock. I think you know very well BlackRock, which is a fund, and LGIM, as it decided, the Dutch pension fund, to implement a shift in its investment policy towards a more sustainability and active management focus. So this means that the green vision has already started impacting the market. Also, this means a great movement in billions of euros that can make the difference. I start with a glossary of sustainable change because I found in the previous training that I made in the last few weeks that people have difficulties if you don't use the right terms to explain them what this change is. Especially in communicating about climate action, we can significantly influence general perception and acceptance if we replace certain words. I think that the words of sustainable change is efficiency, savings, earth, improved quality of life, new business opportunities, new job profiles. If you use these words, you will be immediately understood by people that want a business at the center of the discussion. For example, if you replace this term decarbonization, which is one term that is used nowadays very often, with modernization, costs, which is a problem for every company, you can replace this term with investments, which has a more positive point of view. When you talk about problems, you can change it with profitable solution. That is, you find profit in this period of, in these problems, you can find new challenges. Crisis, change it with opportunities. Jobs at risk, new professions. Targets, roadmaps. Difficulties, challenges. As you can see in the left columns, there are words that specifically outline pessimism. On the right part, there are words that specifically underline optimism, a new point of view, a new vision. When you talk about future generation, it's a little bit too far. So better talk about current generation, our problems today. Sacrifices, you can turn it into advantages. Decrease in qualitative economy. Sobriety, efficiency. More rules, turn it with modern regulations. Ecological in logical. To convince someone, we must use language that matches his or her interest. These apply to climate action as much to any other case. Because if we don't touch the right button, this person will not be involved in our change, in our project. It is as well and good to talk about the importance of protecting the environment, yes, or the need for urgent action to stop rising temperatures. But if that is not what interests your audience, then you need to change direction, tack. Rightly or wrongly, the language of opponents of climate action focuses on job creation, economic development, freedom of action, and the fight against regulation. These are often the players with the most power in the global economy, and it is therefore on these points that the debate must focus. Second tip, vision and leadership. I always underline that sustainability must start in the boardroom. The manager and the owner of the company must be aware of the mission they are engaging in and of the mission they want to start, their scope, their targets, and the change they want to make, and especially leaders must define the why and set the ambition. Understand that green vision is growth vision today, because there is a new market that is opening because customers are asking brands to change and to have a new way to consider their products, introducing the protection of the environment and protection of Earth. If you distance yourself from the problem, you are distancing yourself from the solution. That's my opinion. It is very important to start with a clear vision and with measurable goals. We were talking about it before. First, map ESG, environmental, social, and governance impact, and involve stakeholders. Take concrete action on environment, people, and governance. Monitor, report, and certify. Train people and create a shared culture. Focus on innovation and circular models. Standardize and formalize with certifications. But I will talk about it later also about certifications. What does ESG mean and why it is important? Everybody knows that ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, three fundamental elements for understanding where a company or any business stands today in terms of sustainability. Environmental, social, and corporate governance factors qualify a business as sustainable, but what it means sustainable? How does ESG work? Through a questionnaire with a variable rating, companies can assess their commitment to environmental, social, and corporate governance issues. Today, the problem is if you do not engage the people that are going to fill in the questionnaire in the change, in the new vision that the governance of the company has, it is very difficult that this analysis will be a win, because they have to understand the change, they have to be part of the change. But what does it mean to be a sustainable company? For example, respecting the environment, being attentive to the inclusion and well-being of workers, and promoting the presence of women in management bodies. Environmental factors related to production processes, how energy intensive they are and their impact on their environment. Social factors related to labor relations, inclusion, community well-being, and respect for human rights. Corporate governance factors consider compliance with diversity policies in the composition of administrative bodies, the presence of independent directors, and executive remuneration practices, all of which play essential roles in ensuring that social and environmental aspects are taken into account in the decision of companies and organizations. I made a specific slide about corporate governance because I think it's important to know that the direction of the company must establish a strategic direction. The first step in developing a strategic plan is to establish a clear vision of where the organization wants to go. First, define risk strategy and management. Who does what? And especially which risk the company is going to face because, for example, of a new directive that Europe is going to introduce and are a must in the future years. Ensuring compliance with company policies, standards, and procedures. I want to introduce also the VSME because in 2024, the EFRAG Sustainability Reporting Board endorsed. EFRAG is an independent company that works with Europe, with the European board. Endorse the voluntary sustainability reporting standards for small and medium enterprises. It's voluntary, it's not, the company are not obliged to do it, but what is the aim of this voluntary sustainability reporting standards? It aims to support European micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in the provision of sustainability data, which means analysis of their data, which means to take a photo of their difficulties, of their furnitures, of everything is going to enter the company and live in the company, and everything is important to understand where is going the company. Meeting the information needs of large companies, lenders, and investors. The benefits of adopting the VSME. The voluntary sustainability standards offers to the medium and small enterprises a proportionate framework for sustainability reporting. It facilitates access to sustainable finance and improving transparency towards stakeholders. But it also defines the first steps towards concrete action to change course towards a lower impact and consequent monitoring and reduction of costs. Turtle, it is a company, a spin-off of the University of Bologna with which I work, has developed additional tools designed to support small businesses in their reporting activities. One of these tools has been included by EFRAG among the European tools currently mapped, 21 across Europe. In 2025, already 50 reports aligned with the VSME have been produced using these tools. Several of these reports have been published by companies. During this reporting, excuse me, I have to stop 1 second because the school of my son is calling me. 1 second only.
Okay.
I'm here. Excuse me, but as it happens always when you're doing something important, the school calls and okay, I will start again. Are you still, can you see my presentation?
Yeah. Yes, now yes.
Okay. I was saying that these reports have been published by companies during this reporting work doing this reporting work. Doing this reporting work facilitates access to credit and the completion of the most widely used ESG questionnaires. For example, some well-known ESG platforms could be completed in less than an hour directly by the companies themselves and in complete autonomy, thanks to the report provided to them. VSME, as with sustainability in general, should be seen as a tool for increasing corporate competitiveness. But I want to underline that we must be aware that nature provides both tangible goods such as food, water, timber, and textile fibers, but also essential ecosystem services such as pollination, climate regulation, preservation. Traditionally, however, these benefits are not accounted for in company balance sheets, nor are they included in productivity for GDP calculations, because they are considered free and taken for granted. Without a market price or recognized monetary value, they are not included in economic decision-making models and remain invisible in corporate and financial strategies until they are compromised. Point 3, efficiency first. Of course, it is very important to cut waste, cut costs, and cut emissions. Energy efficiency, water savings, and smarter logistics. Doing more with less is instant wins. The first step toward efficiency, I think, can be life cycle assessment. As everybody knows, life cycle assessment is a method used to evaluate the environmental impacts of a product, a process, or a service throughout its entire life cycle, from raw material extraction to disposal. It's often called a cradle-to-grave analysis, but it helps companies, policymakers, and researchers to first identify hidden environmental hotspots in a supply chain, compare products or processes fairly, for example, plastic against paper packaging, support eco-design, sustainable decision-making, and regulations. The four main phases of an SCA, second ISO 14044 standard. First, goal and scope definition. Define why the SCA is done and what is being studied. Decide the functional unit, for example, 1 liter of bottled water delivered to the consumer. Set system boundaries, cradle to gate, etc. Second, life cycle inventory. Collect data output, inputs and outputs, raw materials, energy used, emissions to air, water, soil, waste generated. 3. Life cycle impact assessment. Translate the inventory data into environmental impact, such as global warming potential, CO2 equivalents, ozone depletion, etc. 4. Interpretation. Analyze results, check consistency, identify improvement opportunities, make decision or recommendation. Why LCA analysis to me is very important, but not only to me. According to the World Economic Forum, half of global GDP, that is $44 trillion, depends to some extent on nature. That is why biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse are ranked second among global risk in the medium term, 10 years, in the Global Risk Report 2025. In fact, all 4 of the top global risks over the next 10 years are climate and environment related. Extreme weather events rank first, critical changes in terrestrial system third, and natural resource scarcity fourth. This has a strong impact on all businesses. 4. Circular thinking. From linear take, make, waste to circular, reduce, reuse, regenerate. Products designed for repair, recycling, and sharing. Waste becomes raw materials, not a problem, because raw material is a new source of value for the company, because it can be sold, but it can be reused. Why circular thinking is essential? The European Central Bank confirms that of the 40.2 million non-financial companies in the euro area, 72% are critically dependent on ecosystem services and risk facing serious economic problems due to their degradation. They account for 75% of bank loans in the euro area. This means that banks' loan portfolios could also be negatively affected to a greater or lesser extent, depending on the areas and economic sectors concerned. The same applies to insurance, for example, the insurance companies, because 30% of their investments depend on ecosystem service. This means that improving circular economy, circular thinking is essential because we have to face this risk. It's not our task to solve every risk, but we have to be prepared to this risk. 5. Innovation as the engine. Clean tech, of course, renewable energy and sustainable materials. I don't know if you listened to the news yesterday that said that the Pope, immediately, Leo XIV, immediately as he started being the Pope, decided to install solar panels on the Vatican. That's a great news, and this means that renewable energy is very important for everybody. Digital tools to measure, optimize, and decarbonize, innovate not only products, but also business models. In the report Sustainable Signals, Corporates 2025, Morgan Stanley surveyed executives at more than 30 companies with revenues greater than $100 million across North America, Europe, and APAC, and representing a broad range of industries. The survey found that companies increasingly view sustainability as an opportunity to create value, with 80% of respondents reporting seeing sustainability as having a value creation impact on their company's long-term strategy, up 3% points over last year, including 53% who view it primarily as value creation and 35% as a mix of value creation and risk management. 6. Green supply chains. Sustainability is only as strong as your weakest supplier. Partner selection, traceability, and ethical sourcing, building resilience through collaboration. Start from, for example, ask your suppliers for material certification, origin, and sustainability information. That is, whether they use recycled cardboard, for example. Verify the origin of materials and choose suppliers who comply with your mission guidelines. Share company decisions with employees and involve them in the company mission. Sometimes we can be surprised by the solution our employees come up with. Sometimes it happened to me when I visit companies that they already have the solution inside them internally, because they don't ask, they don't share their information, and they don't ask, for example, the suppliers, the certification, which product they use. Sometimes is much easier than we think. 7. Engaging people and customers. Employees as change champions. Customers as co-creators of sustainable value. Transparency builds trust, and trust builds loyalty. It's essential to involve, train, and simulate people on a path of awareness creation towards sustainability and green economy issues in order to enable change, protecting the earth of the company itself, as well as the people involved. Now I want to just make you smile and tell you this story. The cleaner who sent men to the moon. It was the late 60s, at the height of the space race. Kennedy, visiting the Space Center, met a cleaner and asked him, "What do you do here?" The man replied proudly, "I'm sending a man to the moon, sir." This anecdote reveals the real secret of the success of the NASA's lunar mission. Every single one of the 300,000 people involved knew they were indispensable to the final mission. It wasn't just a motivational slogan. Each person matters. It was a deep-seated belief that permeated every level of the organization. The cooks knew that food poisoning could derail the entire program. The archivists were aware that a poorly preserved document meant critical information lost forever. The cleaning staff understood that dust was not just dirt, but a threat to the accuracy of instruments vital to the safety of the astronauts. We must be aware that the people with which we collaborate are very important, that we must share our vision, we must share information, we must engage everybody in this change, because this can be the difference between winning or losing our challenges. 8. Measuring what matters. I want to just ask, okay, is everything clear since now? I hope everything is quite clear.
Yes.
Okay. If someone has questions, we can just write it on the chat, and then we can answer at the end. What do you say?
Yeah,
okay.
Probably it's better.
Okay. I share my video. Measuring what matters. KPIs, impact reporting, ESG standards, from greenwashing to clear data-driven accountability. Progress is proof. How sustainability is measured. I took this slide from Turtle, the company with which I work, that has this tool, which is Vivace, that is used to analyze indicators, strategic, tactical, and operational, to analyze sustainability, measure sustainability. First, people, second, planet, third, profit, that is environment, social, and governance. How environmental sustainability is measured, for example, for the energy. It's important to know how much fossil fuels a company is using, renewable energy sources, energy efficiency. As regards water, reused water, lost water, disposed water. As regards waste, recovered waste, recycled waste, disposed waste. And as regards transport, type of transport, fuel used, mileage. All this is combined to analyze the situation of the company and to establish a performance indicator. As regards water, it's very important to underline that there's no, in Italy, companies are not obliged to reuse water, but it would be very important instead to start, for example, as regards rain, to collect rainwater and to start using it in also, for example, in a stupid way for the bathroom, which is water that we can drink. Drinkable water is used in the bathroom. Instead, we could use rainy water. The objective of this analysis is to assign a score 0 to 100% to the company's environmental sustainability in order to guide it in choosing the most sustainable investments from an economic and environmental point of view. First, collection and analysis of company data, bills, surveys, transport documents, estimates. MAD stands for the waste. Second, calculation of operational indicators useful for managing and optimizing the processes. Third, calculation of tactical indicators useful for setting more specific targets. Fourth, calculation of the strategic indicator of environmental sustainability. Integrating sustainability into objectives and building a successful business to tackle global changes. First, verification of European, this is the path I draw, but everybody can choose a different path. This is my roadmap to a green business. First, as I was saying, verification of European sustainability regulation that impact the company's production sector, which is very important. Second, development a 5-year strategic plan to achieve objectives and integrate sustainability. Third, train people to help them understand the process, engage them and build loyalty by sharing objectives. 4, propose sustainable plans to banks and to stakeholders to attract financing, talent, new customers and retain partners. 9, the payoff. The payoff is lower cost, stronger brand and investor appeal. Future-proofing against regulation and risk, growth in the markets of tomorrow. In a market that demands transparency and accountability in ESG, certification, international sustainability initiatives, and ratings such as B Corp and EcoVadis are growth accelerator. Certification are useful for participating in tenders and competition, improving access to financing, strengthening the positioning and reputation, meeting the demands of customers and stakeholders. For example, EcoVadis is based on international standards such as GRI, UNGC, United Nations Global Compact, and various ISO standards such as ISO 14001 and ISO 26000. It assesses the sustainability of companies across 4 macro areas: environment, ethics, working conditions, and sustainable procurement. Each company receives a score on a scale of 0 to 100, which is useful for measuring its performance and demonstrating its concrete commitment along the supply chain to its business partners. Now I introduce a subject that for me is very important. Richard Carson was a pioneering marine biologist and a writer whose groundbreaking book, Silent Spring, which was published in 1962, launched the modern environmental movement. In the book, she exposed the dangers of indiscriminate pesticide use and challenged the unchecked power of chemical companies. Carson's work awakened public consciousness about the interconnection of all life and the need to protect natural ecosystem. As I said before, the breaking natural ecosystem is a damage, but also for businesses. Nature is not a closed structure, said Rachel Carson in her book. I made clear the category environment and humans, the direct effects and indirect effects. The direct effects of pesticide on the environment, soil, water and air pollution, species mortality, biodiversity loss. Indirect effects, pest resistance, ecosystem imbalance. As regards humans, acute toxicity, chronic diseases, neurotoxicity, endocrine disruption. As regards the indirect effects, transgenerational effects, exposure via food, water, chemical cocktails, accelerated aging, allergies, and immune suppression. What I want to underline is that if we poison the environment, we poison our lives. And we need to understand that taking these new challenges towards a green business means also choosing to protect people and earth. Effects on the market. For example, there has been an historic ruling in Spain. Pollutions from intensive livestock farming violates residents' human rights. The High Court of Galicia has ordered states and regional authorities to repair the damage caused by intensive farming in the Alimia region. Source LifeGate, July 2025. This means that destroying biodiversity, destroying our environment has direct effect on business, because in Spain there was this first historic ruling, but there are many others that are starting, which we have to predict and start understanding the risk of our business in order to avoiding it. For example, now I introduce two directives that impact the market. It depends on which line the company works, but anyway. One is the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which is which is introduced by the European Union to address greenhouse gas emissions associated with the import of goods. In other words, it is a carbon tax imposed on goods imported from non-EU countries to prevent carbon leakage, that is, the relocation of production to countries with less stringent emission regulations. What is the purpose of the CBAM regulations? The CBAM aims to ensure that goods imported into the EU meet environmental standards similar to those required of European producers. In this way, it promotes fair competition between domestic and foreign producers, encourages the adoption of sustainable practices in exporting countries, supports the EU's commitment to climate neutrality by 2050. The regulation CBAM provides for two implementation phases. The transitional phase is the first phase, which begins on the date of entry into force of the regulation, that was 1st October 2023. It's already 2 years, and will end on 31st December 2025. During this transitional period, the tax will not be applied to imported goods, but only information on the quantity of products entering the EU subject to the CBAM will be collected, including the assessment of embedded emissions. During this phase, the competent national authorities will begin the process of authorizing the parties subject to the regulation. The definitive phase from January 2026, when the mechanism will become fully operational. According to the regulation, the first CBAM declaration relating to goods imported in the calendar year 2026 should be submitted by 31st May 2027. During the transition phase, the CBAM will only apply to imports of cement, iron, and steel, aluminium, fertilizers, which impact the agricultures, electricity, and hydrogen. European importers of these goods will only have to report the volume of their imports and the greenhouse gas emissions embedded in their production without having to pay any financial adjustment at this stage. Numerous flexibility elements have also been built into the CBAM structure, such as the use of default values for reporting embedded emissions and the possibility of using the monitoring, reporting, and verification standards of the country of production. Before explaining to you next directive, I want to ask something, for example, to one of the company we talked before. Maybe I see Massimo Braghieri, I involve you because you are here. I just wanted to ask you if you, as regards water in your process, if you recuperate water, if you reuse water somehow, because or the rainy water, if you...
Sorry, I speak Italian, ok?
Ok.
Ok. Sì, noi riutilizziamo parte dell'acqua nei nostri processi, che è derivata addirittura da un processo di estrazione dell'acqua da uno scarico che viene trasformato in un rifiuto e l'acqua che viene distillata da questo scarico viene riutilizzata nel processo con un principio di economia circolare, direi.
So I understand. So you reuse your water from the process, okay, and you transform this waste, and you reuse the water into another process.
Nello stesso processo.
In the same process, okay.
Yes. E abbiamo anche altre situazioni di recupero e riutilizzo dell'acqua nei nostri processi, acqua che può essere riutilizzata anche se usata perché non viene contaminata e quindi viene recuperata e riutilizzata.
But as regards rainwater, do you collect rainwater? Quindi l'acqua piovana la
No.
raccogliete? No.
No, in questo momento no, c'è una possibilità perché abbiamo fatto una vasca di laminazione per le acque di prima pioggia, quindi stiamo ragionando su quegli aspetti con la parte di plant.
No, because I was studying with in another training day that when you use your water closet, you use 8-10 liters of drinking water. Some people didn't know that it was drinking water, quindi acqua potabile. We used drinking water for our water closet, and it would be great if every company could start collecting rainy water for this purpose. It would be a very civilized method to improve our sustainability. Glielo traduco, è tutto chiaro? Ok. Is there any other company that is reusing or is collecting rainwater or is reusing water in their process? I don't know if someone wants to talk. No? Okay. Everybody's shy today. Nobody wants to talk.
Yeah.
Ok. And I will speak a little bit because otherwise only reading slides, it's annoying for our public. So maybe I want to explain why for example, I think that in this roadmap towards a green business, it's very important to evaluate the human contribution. That is, first we have to train our people to understand this change, because as I always say, there are people that push the button, and it's not the machine is not going to function automatically, and especially who works in the market field have to understand this change. And a question that was made to me in the lesson I organized a few days ago: how can we convince our marketing manager to introduce the sustainability theme? First, I said that it depends on the interest, on the targets the marketing manager has. Which is the target of this person? The target is to achieve to achieve a particular target. That is, if you want to be more visible, if you want to earn more, if you want to launch a new brand, if you want to launch a new product, once you define the interest this person has, you can introduce the sustainability as a point of view that can help and sustain this process and convince this person to introduce a green vision in order to achieve their targets. So I think it's very important to talk to people, understand which is their interest, and to make them change their mind little by little, not forcing people. Of course, there are many methods. For example, gamification, that is introducing gamification, but I don't like it too much. I prefer the nudging. Nudging is an architectural choices which convince people to make a choice without forcing them, for example. And one example of nudging is when you choose for the computer software the default choice. This is nudging because it's easier for you. You don't have to decide. So if you start making people a easier path, if the green business is the easier path, is the more rewarding path, people will choose it automatically. That's one possibility. Okay. If nobody wants to talk, okay. Let's go on. Otherwise, we finish too early because if I have to read and nothing else, I prefer to confront and to talk with the people that are here today.
Yes, maybe Silvia, one question from my side, because about the CBAM regulation that I was not aware, yes, because it's matching very also other discussion concerning tariffs and so on, and also the power among different regions in the world. Because of course this type of regulation has a certain purpose, and it's not a commercial one. But of course, let's say at the end, the goods are moving, the services are flowing through different regions, and for example, Europe has this approach that is trying to level the feature of each item entering the market, while, for example, the USA are using a commercial way of handling this flow. This regulation is already, I mean, every company is aware of it, according to your knowledge, or it's more concerning the exporter more than the importer?
For example, I worked with a foundry, una foundry, and they knew 2 years ago that it was going to impact their business, but they didn't know how to follow the rules. So it's still as I said, there are different steps that Europe decided to activate. Now, in December this year, we'll finish the transitional phase, but the companies that are included in this mechanism, I think, are aware. I hope they are aware, because they have to start a new procedures to import the goods. For example, if you import iron from USA, which has an impact more higher than the iron that you buy in Europe, you have to pay, until December, you don't have to pay anything. But starting from January, maybe because the directive is changing, the regulation is changing, so they will have to pay a bill of the difference between the impact, the carbon impact of the goods imported and the one instead you find in Europe. So it's a complex mechanism. So especially about foundries, first of all, but also other of the field, of the mechanic field.
And also I have another point I would like to deepen a little bit more. As you know, this project is focusing especially on SME, small and medium enterprises. I would like to know which is your experience, and if there, in your opinion, there are differences in which, in the way in which SME has to approach a path toward a green business, or in your opinion, it's not different from a big corporation or bigger companies. Is there something specific, do you think, that small and medium enterprises has to focus on? Some advice or something different?
I think that small and medium enterprises have an advantage. They are small and medium, so they can talk easily and communicate easily sometimes. It depends on the board, because it's very important that the owners or managers that have to decide the strategies share their vision. I mean, first they have to understand the vision, the risk, and especially because in Italy il codice della crisi d'impresa, the code for the company's crisis, has made mandatory to analyze the risks, for example, for organizations, and also administrative people that cannot be substituted. For example, if you in your company, if you do not can substitute a person that goes, for example, in maternity, or because it's becomes ill, and it's a key figure, it can create a problem in the company. Okay, so there is the possibility that integrating the analysis of ESG, it's complex, but it's not so complex. In the fact, it's easier, especially in small and medium enterprises. It's easier to start analyzing the organization and to start a new process, because you can talk to people easier, because there are not so many branches, and it's more easier to engage these persons in this process. But we have to understand if they are willing to change. It depends on the vision, on the mission that the governance is going to let them to traduce for them. I mean, if the owner of the company is reluctant to transform its vision, of course, that from the bottom can come the change, but it's very difficult. It's easier if the change comes from the top of the governance. So it depends on the structure of the enterprises, of course. It's not a generally one, but it's very related to the case, okay? But first, I think it's if you let people understand the benefit, or for the governance, the benefits are money. For people, benefits can be hours of freedom because they use they work in smart working, or they can, for example, reduce the expenses because, for example, carpooling can be seen as sustainability in a company. There are different steps that can be introduced little by little. First, we have to understand the interest of the governance of the company and the interests of the people. So the small and medium enterprises, as there are smaller quantity of people, it's easier to touch the interest of these people and to collect them and to build a strategy to a green business, okay? It's not so easy to prepare a plan just talking like that. We have to study the situation, and we can introduce different strategies. There are many that can be used. It depends also on the vision of the governance, of course, but we can transform it. If the governance wants more benefits, more monetary benefit, we can see it as avoiding marketing risk, for example. Avoiding marketing risks means understanding that climate crisis, that natural events can influence the market and can influence, for example, insurance. Insurance now, it is the natural phenomenon are obliged for the companies to be insured, for example, which is a cost for the companies. But we have to verify first if the company is near a river, the company is in an earthquake zone. So we have to analyze all these things which impact in the company. It's possible to make people aware of this risk and start a path towards sustainability, letting them understand that it can impact their business. I think this is first what we can do. It's not easy. It's not easy to explain it now.
I understand also, because I think that the approach is to start from also in the beginning was to start from big companies that were having certain requirements, and then flow down with smaller companies, because all the supply chain to align to the to green purposes. The first actors were the big companies, but later on the supply chain should adapt also to the big companies' achievement, because the achievement of the big companies was also related to the supply chain, let's say, target reaching.
Yes. I want to make an example. I made a training in a company that sells cold cuts, jam, ham, and so on, salumi, etc. And I had a problem to solve because the large scale distribution asked them to furnish a container, a plastic container of only one material, because it could be easily recycled. Okay. They asked me how to verify this. And when I meet them, we analyzed all their I don't find a word, all the suppliers, and we found that the suppliers had already sold them the packaging done with only one material, but they didn't know, because they didn't analyze the they wanted to make a new investment, spending more money because they didn't knew their suppliers had already made this change and prepare a packaging with only one plastic component. Okay, so sometimes the problem starts with the boards, because the owner of the company does not communicate to their manager or employees his problems and he doesn't know how to solve it. Instead of asking how can we solve this problem, how can we verify, he found easily to buy a new product instead of verifying with his suppliers the best solution. Okay, it's a problem of communication sometimes. Or they didn't know, for example, if their suppliers of cardboard used recycled cardboard or not, certified cardboard or not. So also in small and medium companies, it's a difficult process because the owners sometimes are not prepared to face this change. That's the problem. Sometimes the employees are more prepared than the owners. So it would be great first to train the owners and the top managers to let them understand that change is a winning change. They could get more benefits from this change, but sometimes it's not so easy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So nobody wants to tell me if they use reusable water in the process, so I can share again my slide. And then I will make also a tour of questions. Okay. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was saying that another European directive that is impacting the market is the European Deforestation Regulation, is the new European legislation designed to prevent the deforestation and forest degradation linked to the production and trade of certain raw materials. According to the text of the regulation, deforestation is defined as the conversions of forests to agricultural use, whether directly or indirectly caused by human activity. Forest degradation, on the other hand, includes structural alterations to forest cover, such as the conversion of primary or naturally regenerated forests into plantations or other types of wooded areas. The EUDR officially came into force on 29 July 2023, with a transitional phase designed to allow companies to adapt to new provisions. Initially, the regulation was supposed to come into force on 30 December 2024, but this was subsequently postponed by 1 year. Let's take a look at the new deadlines. 30 December 2025, entry into force for large and medium-sized enterprises and traders. 30 June 2026, entry into force for small and micro enterprises. The EUDR is part of the European Green Deal, the EU strategy for the ecological transition, which aims to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Together with measures such as the carbon border adjustment mechanism and the plastic tax, it represents one of the cornerstones of the European environmental policies. Which products does the EUDR apply to? The EUDR applies to a number of commodities considered to be at high risk of deforestation, as well as derived products that contain them or have been manufactured using them. Currently, the 7 raw materials directly covered by the regulation are wood, rubber, cattle, coffee, cocoa, oil palm, and soy. Before introducing our, I just want to know. Okay, because it's only 10 to 11, So, do you want to make a pause, or we can go on, or how you usually? As nobody is talking, so let's make 10 minutes stop, and then we'll start again in 10 minutes.
I don't know, because I think that the meeting was recording since the activation. So probably, I don't know, Mara, if it's a problem to have a break in the meantime and then to maybe to
No,
cut
I think it's acceptable. Yeah.
Okay.
No, as nobody's talking, so I will have to just make 10 minutes pause, as I'm talking all the time anyway.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, no
Okay.
problem.
Thank you.
Okay. So
We start again at 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm ready. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Now, it would be interesting what you asked me before about the difference between big companies and small and medium companies. It's not easy in a few minutes to plan a strategy, but I think it's easier to approach small and medium, but it depends on the mindset of the owner or the managers, okay? If they have already I mean, if they understand the change, if they know what is this ecological transition, if they know what is the Green Deal, why they have to change their mindset into a new vision. After you have all this information, it's easier to build a strategy. It depends if they are open-minded, if they have which are their targets, especially. Of course, everybody wants to improve their business. So what I wanted to explain in my lesson is that we have to use the right words, especially with small and medium enterprises, because everybody wants to earn enough money to pay all debts, pay all employees, and to earn their own living. So we have to change the way we communicate sustainability in order to touch the right interest of the persons. That's it, but it's not so easy to plan a strategy in this way. So but I think it's easier with the small and medium enterprises because the big companies have their strategies, but they are very closed. They are not open-minded. They have different branches. They have a different approach, which is more standardized. So they are less open to changing their standards. And they are also obliged to different directives as big companies. Instead, the small and medium do not have, they are not obliged to follow these directives, but they can be willing to improve their standards following these directives. That's the difference.
Okay, thank you.
I share again my I want to introduce, before proposing you two case studies, the definition of greenwashing. I think maybe everybody knows, but anyway, I want to refresh it. Greenwashing is a neologism and refers to communication or marketing strategies that presents activities as sustainable while attempting to conceal their negative impact. An example can be a slogan that you find on the package that says that the plastic is being recycled 10% more, but it doesn't say the impact of this recycling. It doesn't say more than what it was before. The lack of data sometimes brings companies to fall into greenwashing. In practice, greenwashing involves giving oneself a veneer of environmental credibility by diverting attention away from the negative effects of one's activities or products. So here we are faced with the old dilemma between being and appearing. But does one necessarily have to be unprofessional to engage in greenwashing? Unfortunately, no, because companies must pay particular attention to their sustainability initiatives to avoid being labeled in this unfavorable manner. Sometimes companies, I can add, avoid telling their customers or the stakeholders about their sustainability activities because they are afraid of the negative impact, because sometimes they feel it's not important to communicate it because they are afraid of greenwashing. 10 essential actions against greenwashing and for the success of every action. This checklist outlines 10 areas of action to avoid the risk of greenwashing. First, establish clear reporting boundaries. Verify sustainability claims. Use absolute and relative metrics. Align with reporting standards. Present balanced results. Match claims with resources. Validate certifications and awards. Link future goals to present actions. Engage stakeholders. Retain documentation and audit trails. The commandment of green marketing. The company must be sure of the commitment that it declares. If you want to devote yourself to a green marketing strategy, it is essential to be consistent, transparent, and concrete. Back up all your statements with data. Being vague does not fully support the activities of a sustainable company. Third, do not mislead consumers with misleading terms such as all natural, recycled, or statements such as our company is green or we are sustainable. Pay close attention to labels. Here are 6 tips for showing your authenticity in green marketing. Tell the truth. Information provided to the end consumer must be transparent. Provide clear evidence showing as well as telling. How can you do this? Start with photos and videos of what you do. Be very active on social media. Evidence appeals to consumers, especially in visual form. Social media platforms are the perfect place to spread a company's message. Ask for suggestions. Customers who appreciate what a company does to support the planet are valuable, and you can ask them for ideas on additional practices to incorporate. It is also important to find the right balance between content that tells the story of a company and how it strives to be sustainable. Relying on international certifications, of course, when embarking on a sustainability journey, it is essential to rely on solutions that reflect international standards. What is a climate journey? Climate journey means to become more sustainable. A company can embark on what is known as a climate journey, a real path to reducing its environmental impact and combating climate change. The climate journey consists of 4 steps. Calculation of emissions produced directly and indirectly by the company. Reducing, where possible, all emissions caused by production and management activities. Adopting sustainable practices and involving employees. 3. Offsetting non-reducible emissions by supporting certified projects, creating with the sole purpose of capturing emissions from the atmosphere or preventing their production. 4. Communicating its commitment to customers and all stakeholders involved in the value chain. Now I want to show you a case study of Lululemon, which is a company in the United States. Lululemon is a company that produces athletic apparel like Technogym in Italy, but recently Lululemon Athletic is expanding its operation in Australia because it supports a recycling startup who is established in Australia. Because the need of Lululemon is to meet growing demand for recycled fibers in the fashion, packaging and automotive industries, particularly those made from hard-to-recycle materials such as nylon and polyester. The startup is called Samsara Eco Pty Limited, and it has opened its first commercial-scale facility, a $30 million Australian plant located in Jerrabomberra, near Canberra. The site is expected to process 1.5 million tons of plastic per year by 2030. Its recycled materials will be used by various customers, including Lululemon, and as part of a trial phase by brands from several other industries. The company's patented technology uses artificial intelligence to create enzymes not found in nature, capable of breaking down synthetic materials traditionally considered non-recyclable. The new plant will also include research laboratories and development spaces designed to expand the range of plastics it can process. Plastic waste is collected and prepared for recycling by cold washing. Enzymes breaks down the plastic waste from its complex state back to its original form. The plastics are then separated from any other additives such as colorants. The recycled monomers can then be used in the regeneration of new plastics. The only critical point in this case study that I underline is that the Lululemon is not telling us which is the impact of recycling these plastic wastes, for example, which is the impact of water, the use of water, how many liters of water do you need, and if the impact is negative or positive respect to the originary product. And for example, as it is said, the plastics are then separated from any other additives such as colorants, but we don't know how these colorants then are being transformed or reused, or it becomes trash, and it is and how it goes, where it ends. So it is a positive approach, but it needs data that can be certain in order to make people be certain that the brand is not greenwashing, but is doing a process that can be useful and less impactant than the using plastic clothes. The first question is why not changing our habit of using plastic clothes or using less plastic clothes? That would be a good question, as plastic is the first origin of pollutants in our sea, for example. Another case studies which I found very interesting is Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's is a company in the USA that produces ice cream, an historical company. In 1928, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield established their first ice cream parlor. In 1987, the company is valued at $30 million. The two founders attributed the success of their brand to three factors: high-quality ice cream made with natural ingredients, unusual flavors, and social activism. In fact, from the outset, the company has been a staunch defender of human rights and economic and social justice. This is an example of how to combine business and social activism is a winning strategy. In 2000, Ben & Jerry's was acquired by global food giant Unilever for $326 million, roughly $600 million in today's dollars. It retained the right to have an independent board of directors to carry on its social policy. A fixed portion of revenues, 77.5%, has been allocated to social projects, and the company is among the first to have obtained B Corp certification, confirming it's committed to having a positive impact on society and the environment. Today, the brand sells in 43 countries and generates an estimated $1 billion in annual revenue. We know that Unilever is planning to sell this branch, and Ben & Jerry, the original owner, are willing to rebuy the company because they are not happy of how Unilever is behaving in the market. So the message I want to give you is that going green is not just about saving the planet, it's about saving your business. Those who lead will thrive, those who lag will vanish. I just want to ask if there's any question, because okay, everything's clear. So my suggestion, if a person wants to start approaching a new vision, is first to define new vision. So it depends on the market we are working on. If it is a national market, international market, and which is the field where the small or medium company is in. First, we have to be informed of the mission, define the mission, and decide which is the targets we want to achieve, and then engage all the people that can be of benefit to the project, explaining them which are the targets and which are the what the leader wants to achieve, because otherwise it's often very difficult to communicate. I know that in small enterprises, everybody sees each other every day, but sometimes they do not communicate on the most important problems they have in the enterprise, because they have no time, because there's no time for training, there's no time for talking about very important problems. For example, the future is now, because if a directive is impacting the market, is already late, and we have to change before the market is impacted by the directive of the European Union. It depends on the field the small and medium enterprises are acting, of course. But for me, it is very important that the enterprise analyzes its suppliers and customers, and decide which is the strategy that links every solution, every choice, in order to improve this choice, to reduce the impact, because it must be very clear that the impact is something that can be a risk for health, but for the health of the company also, not only for the health of the person themselves.
Yes, I think that one thing that you were stressing, and it's really very important, is also the human factor, because since the word you are using are the touching point in which the people starts to think something on this word, and this is especially needed to have the correct approach to this type of path. Because even especially in small and medium enterprises, the alignment is maybe more easy in terms of number, but the numbers of people is limited. So you have for sure have to have each one of the people engaged, and probably to also the way in which you are explaining, or let's say you are talking about your vision and your strategy. It's really important to have the people on board. Otherwise, it's really complicated, because could seem another type of mandatory task, or while it's from your explanation, everything seems quite natural, let's say, the way in which it should proceed.
For example, I would like to add that in a factory that aspetta, il settore, I'm translating, in a, sì, aspetta, 1 second, okay. A steel producer decided that the machine where the workers were working were not enough. They counted the hours of work, hours of stop, hours of standby. So he thought that they were not producing enough hours of working. So what did he do? Instead of talking to the workers, he put a video in the coffee room with giving a name, a number to every machine, number 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the workers knew that number 1 was his machine, with working hour of the machine, standby hours of the machine, and no working hours of the machine. It became a clear matching, a clear vision. Everybody knew there was no name of the person using that machine, but they all knew that working hours were green. So 10 hours green, 5 hours orange, and 7 hours red. So if you can see the result of your works, even if you are compared to each other without giving a clear name of the machine is for Giovanni or for Luca or for Silvia, but you knew that that was your result, you can see the comparison in front of everybody in a neutral room like the coffee room. Means that you are pushed to do best. And the result, after 3 months, the owner, the manager, obtained more producing hours without asking nothing, only making a neutral comparison of the work of the people. So there are different psychological way of approaching benefits, sustainability, and green vision. Even, yes, you can talk, you can explain, you can tell everybody how good it is, how healthy it is to obtain this target, but you can obtain more by making tricks, let's say, or introducing the psychological tricks so that people are pushed to do their best, even without knowing they are involved in a process of improvement. But the result is good. Better for the environment because the machine works all day instead of staying in standby or not working, and better for the owner that will earn more from the working hours and so on. There are many examples. Of course, you must study the situation and understand which is the best approach you have to implement in that case, of course.
Very nice case study. Let's say
I got many others studies about it, but I don't want to now. Okay. Well, I hope I made it clear. I finished my presentation because I know it's quite hard to follow online, lots of slides. I will share the materials with you so you can share with people that wants to improve their knowledge to a green business. And if you have any questions, you can write now in the chat, or you can ask me, Mr. Bagnoli or Miss Corbella, if you have any questions by mail, or I will leave also my references in the slides, so you can just contact me if you want. Any questions, Mr. Braghieri? Because you are the video open, I can see you.
Ok, mi sento un po' preso di mira.
No, okay. Just to thank you because you are very participant. So
yes, no, I haven't questioned because it's all clear.
But qual è la sua esigenza primaria in questo contesto? Which is your most important necessity to change mindset or to change process? Lo puoi dire anche in italiano, così sei più agevolato.
Noi stiamo partendo da pochissimo, diciamo dall'inizio di settembre con la struttura ESG e sostenibilità, e per cui in questo momento siamo delle spugne che cercano di incamerare conoscenze per poi ovviamente aiutare l'azienda a indirizzare una strategia di sostenibilità. Molte cose già le facciamo, ma magari non le abbiamo, come si può dire, contabilizzate, non le abbiamo pubblicizzate, ma comunque l'azienda è già sulla direzione giusta, sta facendo tanto, bisogna solo formalizzarle e poi andare dietro ovviamente al miglioramento continuo che bisogna fare per arrivare agli obiettivi che sono di tutto il mondo, non solamente nostro.
Ma perché sostenibilità? Cioè perché spesso questa parola copre tantissime altre cose, no? Io dico sempre che sustainability is the mother that has many
Eh,
childs.
A mio giudizio, dobbiamo cominciare a uscire dallo schema del semplice business e come si può dire, della profittabilità del business, perché non è dentro nelle mura dello stabilimento che continuiamo a vivere tutti quanti, per cui il principio generale dell'Agenda 2030 o comunque anche della direttiva green europea è quella di creare un qualcosa che possa permettere alle generazioni future di avere un mondo ancora vivibile.
Certo, queste sono belle parole, ma parliamo di oggi, quando io dico sempre che anche se sei in un grattacielo di 40 piani, l'aria che respiri, il cibo che mangi, l'acqua che bevi è la stessa di quella che è dall'altra parte del mondo, cioè non è che è diversa, perché quando Rachel Carson dice che la natura non ha, diciamo, compartimenti stagni, quello è,
Infatti,
insomma.
infatti il problema è proprio quello dei confini e della capacità di avere delle regole comuni per tutto il pianeta. E questo è un qualcosa che sta limitando molto il fatto che l'Europa ha fatto delle normative forse molto stringenti, gli altri fanno dumping perché non utilizzano le stesse regole e quindi a nostra volta in Europa come facciamo? Ci tiriamo un po' indietro perché ci vediamo penalizzati da un risultato che doveva essere un risultato di tutti.
Vabbè, poi in America sappiamo che c'è chi tira rema indietro, però per esempio la California è uno stato che sta investendo tantissimo su nuove normative proprio sulla sostenibilità, quindi sta spingendo tantissimo su energia verde, eccetera, eccetera. E notizia di pochi giorni fa che anche la Cina, posso parlare in italiano, Alessandro, mi permetti, visto che
Magari
China
alla
is,
fine da
sì, sì.
un riassunto.
Eh, China is investing a lot in solar panels, is achieving great targets, and for the first time ever is declaring its targets. So that's a very important moment because, as you say, Europe is penalized sometimes by the directive, the green directives, but China has understood before others that it has to be more sustainable, not because it is more greener, but because it is more convenient economically. So they decided to stop producing carbon or to decarbonize because they thought it was the best solution. Because of course, China is a closed market also because China take decision from top to bottom. That is that they decide for all the people that are there. In Italy, instead, often enterprises are approaching the green market more speedily than the institutions. Okay, it is a different way of seeing the problem, but the result must be the same. That is, we have to be on the market, and China is a giant that is conquering the market. So we must be aware that if China is taking this road, we must be at the same pace as these great states. Do you
Io
want
se
to resume, Alessandro, the Italian conversation, or
posso eventualmente mettere ancora un
yes?
piccolo contributo. Qui stiamo parlando di approcci metodologici completamente diversi. Quello che vedo io è che la Cina, per esempio, hanno impostato le loro azioni sull'innovazione e sullo sviluppo anche di nuove tecniche e nuove tecnologie. Mi sembra invece che il Green Deal europeo è stato impostato su abbiamo questi che sono gli strumenti e dobbiamo usare quelli lì per forza. L'esempio classico è stato quello famoso delle auto elettriche, che possiamo vedere che invece di utilizzare un approccio di dire devono essere tutte elettriche, dobbiamo arrivare ad avere una neutralità carbonica. probabilmente si sarebbero sviluppate nuove tecniche, nuove tecnologie, nuove scoperte scientifiche che ci avrebbero portato ad avere soluzioni che al momento non possiamo neanche immaginare, ma facendo così tu blocchi tutta la parte di ricerca e resti su invece l'ottimizzazione di quello che c'è, quindi resti indietro.
Sì, especially because China has infrastructures. That is, China has made a deal with Congo for extracting, for example, coltan and also the rare materials which are necessary for the green transition. Europe has none of them, and as you are right, instead of supporting researching and innovation, they just defined a term 2030 for changing our production, for example, of vehicles, instead of implementing public transport, for example, public transportation, or other solution that could lead to innovation in the car field, for example. So they didn't let the factory the time to research and to implement new solutions. Fossil fuel or electricity or battery, so there's no other options. And the market is not ready to change so in few years, because 10 or 20 years are not enough.
Just to summarize for the other, Mr. Beccari from Beccari was explaining that the company is already doing something in the field, but maybe has not formalized, and it's starting now to have a more, let's say, formal approach to sustainability, and was also exposing the way in which the company is seeing the environment in which the company is in. The purpose for they want to do that because they understand that the company is inside an environment, so it's not the company is not just inside the company walls, but is in the world. So it has to behave in a way that is preserving and allowing the earth to be available also for future generation. From the company perspective, sometimes it's not easy to work in a world in which European Union has a certain approach. Maybe the USA have a different one, and China another one. So for a company that is acting is working worldwide, it's not easy to have let's say part of their market that are behaving differently. And also, maybe a suggestion could be to reflect about the approach that the organization have to have. Sometimes it's maybe better to allow the industry to find innovation that can be helpful to achieve the same goal, instead of to have more formal approach that maybe is limiting the way in which the company can innovate. It's not something we can decide here, but for sure the approach can be also to allow the companies to find the proper way in their sector, in their application, to match the targets, maybe with some kind of flexibility, because it's difficult to regulate something that is not available yet. So maybe the way to achieve the same goal can be to do something completely different, not maybe an incremental approach on what we are doing now or changing just some component. So this was Mr. Beccari. I hope I was summarizing the position correctly.
No, correct.
Now, another example is when a factory produces wastes and it wants to transform them into waste materials and to reuse them into raw materials, second-hand materials, and to reuse them. The regulations, for example, in Emilia-Romagna are very strict, but they're very difficult for a company to start the procedure to make these materials be accepted as second-hand materials. So it takes a lot of time. Instead, the enterprise needs more flexibility, as you were saying, and needs strict times, certain times, and this creates a gap between the necessity of the factory to produce and to reuse their materials and to be sustainable, but also to spare, cut costs, cut wastes, and cut emissions, what we were saying before. But the regulation of the institution are slow, are difficult, are complex, and often it produces a gap and how can I say it? I'm translating in direct bottleneck. A bottleneck. So it's very hard for a company to develop new strategies if there is not flexibility, for example, from the institutions. And Emilia-Romagna is already very open and very in good alignment on the sustainability. Let's not talk about the south regions of Italy.
Okay, yes, sometimes it's difficult to probably to find the proper way for allowing companies to invest and to develop without placing too many bottleneck or limits. From the other side, you have to maintain a certain type of control. So anyway, it's for sure it's a point also because the company has to work according to these regulations. So they maybe they face competition from other countries that have a different approach, and so it's not easy. Okay. So Silvia, I think that the video was recorded, so also this one will be shared with the participant of the project. Together with your presentation. I kindly ask you to leave your references, so in this way also other people can be in touch with you. So first of all, I thank you for your contribution to the project, to do what you have shared with us. Of course, the online way is not the easiest way, but it's also useful for everyone to be involved, also from other nations. And this was one of the goal of this project, also to mix and for each country to understand also how in other region some kind of subjects are understood or managed or perceived. And also every region has its own feature. So thanks
It would be great to meet in person
Yes.
in Modena, also in your seat, to discuss further these arguments, because it's nice to know how the enterprises see the problem, how what are their problems, how they think they can solve it, or are they think they can start this new trip to green business, or their doubts, or any questions they have, because everybody has different approaches, everybody has different problems. So it would be nice to mix that and make a brain storm together.
For sure, we are not so far away, so it will be a pleasure to do that. So thanks again to you, Silvia, for your presentation. Thanks to all of you attending the meeting. As I was telling you, if you are interested in other activities, and you can go to the SMERF website, where there are all the activities we have done, and also the knowledge base, and also the program for the additional training that we will do on different pillars in the next weeks. The next one will be on October 10th. So thanks again to everybody. Have a nice day, and hope to see you soon again, maybe in person. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Silvia.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.